Thank you for listening to this episode of the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network. Happy Saturday, and thank you for letting us get you ready for your sports weekend. I'm Ashton.
I'm Tony.
I'm Landen.
Be sure to like us on social media, follow all of our pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know every time we go live or one of any of our great shows drops. Let's go ahead and talk about it. It was a pretty good success, a pretty good turnout for our first ever Friday night football stream on the Peak One Sports Network.
Such a good time.
It was a scrimmage there against Saginaw High School and Chisholm Trail High School here in Fort Worth. It was fun. If you didn't see it, go back and look. It's after you're done here, of course, just click on live and you'll see that Friday night football broadcast. I mean, a pretty good turnout for a scrimmage, and yeah, it was fun. You, myself, Ross Bates, our kids were there swapping in and out on the broadcast.
We had a lot of fun. It was Manning Brothers-esque,
Yes.
A lot of chat, a lot of, in a scrimmage, it's tough enough to call. They had a split field. They had, two squads going at the same time, so
yeah.
There wasn't a lot of play call going on until towards the end when varsity kind of ran a two-quarter run against each other, but we just had a lot of good conversation, letting everybody get a shot at some mic time. Yeah, check that out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a ton of fun.
Y'all did great.
It's just a glimpse of what you're going to see every Friday night from us.
No lie, it'll be fun like that. We'll tighten it up a little bit. I think we'll do less swapping in and out. We'll have guests on, but the first regular season stream, Friday Night Football, will come this Friday. And it'll be, like I said, it'll be a little more molded, but we're still going to have a good time. It's going to be Manning Brothers-esque, I think, as well.
Yeah, when you get the secondary feed, you'll get Nick's Brothers-esque.
Yes, go ahead and go to our website, peak1sportsnetwork.com, click on that Friday Night Football tab, and you can see a complete schedule where we're going to call 3 games so far. That's what it is right now. And then, there's a couple of weeks where we have that extra stream, that extra game.
You might even get a chance to see Landen jump on the mic there. We'll see how that plays out, how schedules work out.
Yeah, this is our first year doing it. We have people in place, but we all know how things turn out. We do have a bullpen. We do have people ready to come up and jump in. So maybe every game is going to be, I know game 1 is going to be Ross Bates and Tony Nix. Ross has his own color guy that after week 1 is going to join him. And then our games are going to be me and Tony. But who knows? We have Adam, Landen. We never know who jumps in.
We may jump around and just mix it up.
Ross's son sounds like he's pretty knowledgeable and understands the way he was talking. He's
very comfortable with a headset on.
Yeah, maybe he'll be a color guy if we run into a situation.
Number 1 weatherman for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Real quick, this episode is sponsored by Betalytics. Don't bet with your gut. The Betalytics dashboards allow you to quickly identify the top graded best bets and hottest trends. Betalytics uses AI machines to learn algorithms and create accurate game simulations, player prop projections, betting line evaluations, and best bet recommendations. Use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter, and follow us on social media to keep a lookout for our prop bet Saturday. So let's just jump into it. I know we're trying to keep up. We have busy lives. We're trying to keep up with Hard Knocks right now. As of yesterday, I know episode 2, I don't know when they drop new episodes. If episode 3 is already out.
Friday night, is that
okay? Then maybe there's a new episode out. I know I've watched
the end of the week. They'll do the previous that previous week.
See, I was looking yesterday afternoon and episode 2 was out. I started it yesterday, worked on some today. That's when the fight broke out early in episode 2 that we all hear about and all talk about.
Yeah.
Which
seems to become more prevalent in every team camp.
Yeah, people want to talk about it because Hard Knocks is there. There's always fights. In Cowboys training camp earlier this year, at the beginning, they were talking about Dak Prescott getting into it with Diggs.
Yeah.
And they were saying that's normal just because the camera caught that. Some people
mostly
were
that
around.
was just chatter, but
yeah, it wasn't really a fight. But he's like, no, that's if you're not doing that, you shouldn't be in this.
This
I want to say
week,
that's a Diggs said.
You saw Cowboys camp. They had another little breakout fight. And actually, I think even through that, there was some little tweak injuries. It's like, guys, we can't. That's the worst thing you would want to see is one of these fights. I mean, you want to see the competitiveness. Yeah. And I think they're deep enough into training camp. Everyone's in the dog days of summer. Everybody's edgy right now.
They've been living together, working out together, practicing a couple times a day for 3 or 4 weeks now.
It's catching up to these guys now, and they're, it's getting edgy. They're all fighting for spots. They're all fighting for playing time this season.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against the Stars. I'm sure they're working their asses off as well. But you have guys that are right there at the cutting line trying to make a spot for themselves, or even knowing I'm not going to make this team, but if I make a good impression, maybe I get signed to another team. And they're playing like this is their Super Bowl.
One good perspective you see about this and how teams probably view is some of the comments you saw from Deion Sanders of Colorado when there was a little scuffle at his practice. He had a few guys trying to break him up, but then there were guys, you saw the video, some of the players just turning their back and walking away from it, just letting it go. Man, and Deion Sanders ripped all those guys a new one saying, no, you're going to, if one fights, we all fight. Don't let down your team. I don't care what it is. That's a great way to look at it is, if my team is in trouble, my guys are fighting, I'm gonna be right there in it. We're all going to battle together. Yeah,
and you see it when maybe there's a cheap shot out of bounds, or maybe QB sliding and he gets hit. And even if a flag gets thrown, there are players getting in.
You're gonna make sure they know you're not doing that to my guy for free.
Yeah. Also, we were talking about new ownership with the Washington Commanders now. And possible name changes for them. And
have you seen these petitions flying around?
We have an episode of the sports page where we talked about like the top 10 names, and we didn't even bring this up because I didn't think it was possible. But a group called the Native American Guardians Association is demanding the return of the Redskins name.
Man, where's this petition? Send it to me. I'll sign it right now.
This group is organizing a petition that already has gained more than 90,000 signatures. And I think nowadays, when you're a kid, you're thinking petitions do a lot. Like it's official. Like it doesn't matter if you get 1 million signatures. There's not like a number. I always thought there was a number. Once they get to there, they have to do something about it. It's more of like, hey, 90,000. I mean, that's a big number. 90,000 people signed this.
Yeah, I think if you go, I actually went to look for that specific petition. I think it was on change.org. And I mean, there's dozens of change the Redskins name back petitions. If you collectively put them together, I mean, that's a lot of people. Just that one alone, 90,000 people. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're actually going to see them retroactively change back to the Redskins?
Doubt it. I don't know in this.
At least in this juncture,
the culture, the culture we're in, I understand, why they did it. Necessarily agree with it. I think it was a Dan Schneider get him out of office type deal where, hey, here's an opportunity. Let's just get at him. He's going to have to change his name. They get FedEx to say, we're not going to sponsor the field, get Nike to say, or Reebok, whatever brand they're using. We're not selling anymore or making any more of your stuff till you change the name. And Dan Schneider saying, we're not going to do it. And they're like, hey, this is the perfect opportunity to get him. And then he ended up changing the name. I think it's possible. But a lot of the change, as in with many issues in this country, is you're seeing people who aren't directly affected. Like you say, change it back. You think it's a great idea. That's great for you that you have your opinion, but you're white and it's a Native. This group is a Native American group, but most of the change.
1/10 of Native American I have doesn't count.
Well, I don't know. How does that work? 1/10. I don't even know. But you saw a lot, and I'm sure there were Native Americans coming out against the Redskins name, but what you saw prevalent was a bunch of white people talking about it and people who were not Native American talking about it, trying to fight that fight.
There were Native American organizations that were fighting and wanting it changed from the Redskins. Mm-hmm. The same as we saw with the Cleveland Indians, changing to the Guardians. It's a shame because those are some of some of the more iconic names and logos that you have ever seen with the Indians
Yeah.
in Cleveland and the Redskins. I mean, being a Cowboys fan, you're not really a Redskins fan normally, but I was a really big fan of the logo, the coloring. Like, I think they could take the Commanders look and just slap new logos on the helmets, change some of the branding on the uniform, keep the same
Yeah.
style. I think it would be really cool, and I like it.
Yeah, and we're not going to get in the discussion about political correctness or anything, but they were called Cleveland Indians because they signed the first Indian baseball player in Major League history, and he was really big to the team, and that's why they
I
went
mean,
up
for
going
me,
to
and like you
Cleveland's.
said, I'm not 100% Native American, so maybe my opinion doesn't count. But wouldn't you want representation of your, your ethnicity in major league sports?
Yeah,
Would that not mean you could probably look at this like the Patriots? They use a
yeah,
a white figure in there. Like, nobody's throwing up arms saying, "Oh, we shouldn't use that portrayal of a
yeah.
patriot."
Now you could look
What
at
a
the
patriot
name
is. I mean,
Reds.
why couldn't the patriot be a black
Yeah.
or Native American or Hispanic? Like, why or Asian American? Like, why does it have to be a white clean cut male? Like, why is
Because
that?
that's what the thing. I guess that's what you think of when he's dressed like a Revolutionary War fighter.
But I think
Whatever.
it's about representation, and my
Yeah,
my viewpoint is why would you not want representation?
and I get people's thing. Hey, it says Redskin. It's the same as calling them, whatever. We're not going to get into that, but it was a different time back then. It wasn't looked at as racist to say that. It's not some white guy said this is going to be funny.
Yeah.
Now you're like, dang, that is kind of, you think when somebody explains to you when you're not from that era,
Yeah.
it's the same way as I don't care. The Washington Wizards used to be the Bullets. Little bit different, still political. Still, there was a lot of gun violence in Washington at the time, and they thought, let's just change it to the Washington Wizards.
Yeah.
I wasn't a kid then watching like I am now. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily have a negative opinion that's the Cleveland Guardians or the Washington Commanders or whatever. I prefer Redskins and Indians, just because that's what I grew up with. That's what I know. But I don't think the same way as Washington Bullets, where I bet you there are older people when, I don't know, was that the 80s when that changed maybe? There are people from that era grew up with the Washington Bullets that probably now be like, yeah, I prefer Bullets over Wizards. And I think, as with everything, if they don't change it back over time, people are going to stop caring more and more. Like, if I was a Redskins or a Washington football team or a Commander fan, I might have a different, because I know right after they changed, they came after the Texas Rangers. Some hot beat writer in Chicago said, well, there's all this racism associated. I do the same thing when people say I'm not drinking Bud Light or protesting Target. I get it. That's fine. And I'm not saying I disagree with the political standpoints that go with that. But then again, I had a conversation with somebody and they're like, I'm just going to shop at Walmart now. I'm like, do you know what Walmart does? Like, if you're going to take that standpoint, that's why I'm just like, do the research on everyone. I'm like, it's like, I typically don't do that unless, Target, or let's just say random store. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Random store said you find out they've been supporting sex trafficking or something. That's different. But if it's just a political agenda, it's like, I'm not going to go change my...
Most corporate America companies stand behind certain agendas.
They
all stand behind the same thing.
Just like we still watch Disney movies, we still have Disney Plus. If there are shows that are controversial, I will watch it before I let my children watch it. But then again, you have to, like, really, okay, we're shutting everything down. We have to find the one store that agrees with me politically 100%. So I don't necessarily go that standpoint where I understand why they're doing though. I support your right to do that. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you if you tell me I'm not drinking Bud Light, or is it Bud Light? Yeah, Bud Light anymore. I'm not shopping at Target. Good for you. I don't think I'm a good enough person to really research everything, because to me it would feel like a waste if I don't know specifically off the top of my head a Walmart issue, but I know they've been in the news for a lot of political stuff too. If you go in there,
it's funny. So if look at it this way, not to get too political, but to go to that point, if you're making a decision, say Bud Light, based on the media that tells you these things, but it's the same media that you say, oh, I don't agree with them, I don't believe them, I don't follow them. Like, you don't listen to them in certain aspects, but then in other aspects you're like, oh yeah, look what they like. Read into the Bud Light thing, don't just take what the media tells you.
Yeah.
And we're part of that as well. Don't take
There's
what we
so
say.
much.
Go research what we're saying.
There's so much on social media. I see memes, and it's a travesty that people don't keep up with politics and they think they do because they see memes. That's not why.
Yeah.
I feel like if I did a political show, I will end up defending, just like on the Friday night broadcast. I have nothing against pineapple pizza. I've had it before. It's fine. But because somebody loves it, I feel like I'm defending the other side.
Well, Landa wasn't there, so what do you pick? Pineapple on
pizza or no? Or do you care?
I think pineapple on pizza is fine.
Yeah,
I think it's fine, but
here's the
Ross was trying to divide.
Here's another
Are you
one.
for it or against?
Here's
it?
another one. Is it Canadian bacon or pepperoni with the pineapple? Because I'm pepperoni
Canadian
and pineapple
bacon.
better.
Anytime I've ordered, I've never like picked a pizza and gone
Hawaiian.
Canadian bacon. Yeah, we would just go Hawaiian, and it comes with Canadian bacon.
No, pepperoni with
Which is another
pineapple.
issue. Like, I know it's not technically Canadian bacon. Like, do they call it bacon in Canada or anything? Like, why is Hawaiian pizza have Canadian bacon? Like, don't worry. But oh man, we just went off it. No, that's why I don't do a political show, because I'm going to end up being called opposite of what my political views are, because I'm going to defend. They're both ridiculous. They're both crazy, and I do lean pretty far towards one way the most part, but I have empathy towards the other side.
Yeah.
So when I see two memes way far one way or the other, I'm more likely to be like, dude, really? The one I politically agree with, say that's not how it is. What's wrong with you? Why would you do that? And I would, I would alienate everybody, I think. First of all, you're going to alienate half the people anyways. And I'm going to piss off the people that I tend to agree with politically. So, something about me, I'll never do a political podcast.
Never say never.
It'll be annoying though, because I'm going to be on the fence about I'll have an opinion, but as you can tell, I bet you a lot of people are already saying I'm a liberal or I'm a conservative or whatever. They're probably guessing which way, and y'all know which way I lean. But I sit here on the fence talking because I don't want you to stop listening to me, because this is a sports show. If I told you I'm flat out whatever, you're gonna go like, well, I'm not. I don't respect his sports opinion anymore, which is stupid and ridiculous. Yeah. Which is, again, go towards ESPN. People don't watch ESPN because of the political. And again, they do put politics in it more, and sports is a way to get out of that. And I don't agree with that either. But I'll still watch. I still watch the games.
That's a topic
regardless.
for another day, is the politics in sports and using that platform for other.
Another topic that I'm surprised hasn't gotten political. Every time there's a, I don't want to mess up with YouTube algorithms, but every time there's a big issue that happens, everybody jumps at, hey, what do the Republicans think? What do the Democrats? Even though it's not political, technically we make it political, and they want to jump before they know the facts. I'm surprised this one hasn't gotten to that point. Maybe it has, I just haven't seen it. But we talked about this, Landen, when the last episode of the Sports Page. You can go check that out after you're done here. And I wasn't going to bring it up here. I do want to have your opinion on it. But I was looking at my TV this morning, and we had mentioned, we're talking about the blindside issue, by the way, the controversy. I talked to you, like, do you think it's going to be on TV or whatever? Do you think they'll still play it? And I was on my Google TV today, scrolling down, and it suggested the blindside for me.
I think that they'll play it more because everybody wants to look into it.
See,
Everybody's
yeah,
going to go back and
become
watch
popular.
it.
I think it's one of
People
those
that maybe didn't watch it, right?
I think it's one of those movies that most sports fans have probably seen it. Mm-hmm. It's probably controversy to say it's one of the great, because I
think now you're talking about, because it's become mainstream media, more people outside of sports are going to watch it.
That's what me and Ashton were talking about on the Sports Page, was that more people are going to go watch it now because they either haven't watched it or they want to go back,
or
and
they go
watch
look
it
and see how cringy it was. Which I don't hold anything against Sandra Bullock or anybody on that. If anything, I think she deserves to keep her Oscar more, because she made a allegedly bad situation, and people who.
So maybe you should look at it this way now: that film shouldn't be portrayed as a documentary style.
I say, it's fiction now, right?
Fiction.
It's fiction. If you want to go,
and it's a great story if you look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
To imagine that story being real, like, was, and for the most part, it is real. It's not completely.
Yeah,
The portrayal of he even said, I saw this yesterday, that he says, I showed up in the NFL or in college, guys thought I couldn't read or write because they saw the movie.
So
it's like, or well, I guess this was in the pro.
Yeah,
guys literally thought I couldn't read and write.
I talked about.
He's like, he was an All-American before he moved in with them.
I talked
they
about.
Didn't create this. They just helped facilitate.
On the show, I talked about that, where he did an interview a long time ago, or maybe it was an article I read, where it was funny. He said, that's not exactly how it went down, and it kind of hits different. But he's like, I knew how to play football. It wasn't like I was this pathetic football player. And he's like, yeah, I had trouble, and I had a tutor and everything, but you make it look like I had no chance.
He was just this big kid that they taught everything.
For fans of cinema and sports movies, I get it, but I hate to break it to you. Before this story came out, let's say the story that they portrayed was 100% true, not the movie, the Tuies, and the story is what we thought it was still fake. They have to, Hollywood has to make this dramatization where when you watch it, there are very few movies that are true. That's why it says based on a true story. Yeah. They have to exaggerate some stuff, and you hope, man, I hope that really happened, or there's something based on that, or they completely fabricate it. And now, my opinion on it, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, probably a lot closer to Michael Orr's story. He wouldn't just, if what happened really happened and they were these angels, these saints, he wouldn't bring this up.
The film couldn't portray too much of, oh, this kid was an All-American. This kid knew how to play. This kid was going to play in college. He just had to figure
That's half out. The movie, because you would know.
The issue there is, then you look at it as like, okay, well, these white people, they're just jumping on this kid's back. They're just they know what he's got, and maybe that is the true story. The way the conservatorship and stuff was signed, and who knows, how that was portrayed to him, and he was 18, I think, by the time all this happened.
Yeah, so they were going to adopt him anyways. It wasn't really going to be an
adoption. So, but maybe the conservatorship just wasn't explained to him in a way he would understand, or maybe they really were trying to take him for something. You don't know.
So my thinking is, hindsight's 2020. You say you have this huge All-American football player, like huge in stature, and you just like, yeah, we're going to make money off him. I can believe that they said, they even say in the movie they were from Ole Miss, that they thought, hey, we can get him to go play. Yeah.
Ole Miss, yeah.
I can buy that. But to say, hey, we're going to take this kid in because I think he's going to make it big in the NFL and we're going to write a movie about him, that's a little bit of a stretch. I told Landen that if that's your idea, that's the luckiest people in the world that happened on the first kid they decided to do that to. Like I said, I mean, they had money. It's not like they...
Yeah.
I do think they took advantage of the situation. I don't think it's all, hey, we're being
and maybe
angels.
It was a thing that it developed into what it became.
Yeah.
That wasn't the original intentions. Maybe it was, hey, we want to help this kid out. He has a bright future. He just needs a helping hand. And maybe it just evolved into something.
And the conservatorship thing, I buy, where they probably didn't do that right away until they saw, hey, this kid can do stuff, and like, well, we have to make sure we get our spot in there.
It could also be a thing of they wanted the conservatorship to protect this kid, so that other people wouldn't come take advantage of him.
So I don't look at them. I know, again, I said I don't think the details will come out. There'll be legal actions, and they'll sign waivers saying, hey, we can't talk about this, or there's going to be a full-on Netflix documentary. I don't know. I saw a meme about that where Netflix was like rubbing their hands. We're going to do a documentary about this. I don't see,
and in the end, Michael Orr's the one that's going to be the lose out again.
And I don't see the Tuies as these evil scammers. I think they honestly, I believe they thought, hey, this All-American, it had to be in their head, like, maybe we can get him to go Ole Miss. We just take him in. It's the right thing to do type of, hate to break it to you. People aren't that great. There are a few people that are really that great, but even everybody has their biases.
Yeah.
And then maybe opportunity took over and they're like, hey, we can, but I mean, they had money. I don't think it was really money driven. And, Sean Tuies came out and said, hey, we all everyone in the family made $14,000 off of it. And Michael Orr made no royalties. So, which I can get behind, because if he's making all these royalties, or if he's not making any royalties, or is making royalties and says he's not, now I think we may be wrong. Maybe a bunch of people are watching it now, but I think the royalties are going down now because people might reach out and search it out. But I don't think TNT FX. I don't think they're playing this movie now. People might search it out and watch it.
Yeah.
So it might screw up the whole royalty thing. And he's worth $16 million. If you go to the other side, because I feel like I'm defending one side, he's worth a lot of money. I don't think he's going money grabbing. Again, if I had 16 million, I don't know that I'd be like, oh, I'm good. You can screw me out of whatever money you want. So again, I think it's not one side or the other. And that's why I'm surprised it got political, because you talk about rich versus a kid who was poor, black versus white. I haven't seen a lot of people cancel culture. Most people have come out on Michael Orr's side, and that's the way I'm leaning most of the way. But I'm not going to say these are evil people and defame them, or say Michael Orr is a liar. He is out of the league and now he's trying to go get money or something. He didn't do this before.
Previous to him making it to the NFL and making millions and signing big contracts, they did provide a nice lifestyle for him.
And that's what people say, like, yeah, they really screwed him. They got him to the NFL, which he could have gotten.
He probably could have made it there on his own. I mean, he was a phenomenal player. He was, like you said,
they didn't go in there. Yeah, the fact that Sandra Bullock,
but they got him.
Leanne Tui was telling the coach, this is how you teach him, and all of a sudden he gets it. That's over dramatized, even if he didn't know how to play football.
Yeah.
But the whole thing's over dramatized, and maybe we'll get the answers that are there or not, but it's a bunch of rich people fighting. Again, I told Lane, I'm like, the fans, the viewers of that movie are the real victims here.
Yeah, anyone that bought the movie, paid to go see it in theaters, like,
it's like, man, you just ruined that for you. Just not that I feel scammed or like, oh, you tricked me. Like we were talking with Jim Dent in the book about Johnny Manziel's oil money. But I'm like, man, I can't watch that movie anymore. Like, that was a good feel-hard movie.
It's always going to be tainted.
I liked watching it and be like, man, I hope that really happened. I hope that really happened. Like, who cares about Sean and Leanne Tui? They had money anyways. This isn't going to completely ruin their image. And again, I don't necessarily know what to believe. We don't know the details. And I would like to get a Netflix documentary on that. That'd be cool to really get it. And again, people have said, why did he just come out now and say it? And usually I'm not into, because I've never been in the situation, into telling victims, hey, you're wrong because you didn't, obviously more serious crimes. There should be a timeline. Maybe he's just like, I made it to the NFL, just let it go. And then he just saw it. The movie came on one time. He's sitting at home and like, I'm just pissed off. I can't take this anymore. I got to bring it up.
Could be attorney driven as well.
Yeah.
Could be an attorney in his ear telling him, hey, we need to do what's right.
A friend, a friend he now has, and he's like, oh, I'll tell you a story. Drinking around, that it didn't really go down like that, and his friends just sees dollar signs, and maybe it happened the other way, and his friends pushing him is like, hey, you need to sue them and tell them this, and just because it wasn't so lovey-dovey, feel hard like the movie says it was, like maybe it was still good for both parties, just the movie over drama, and really that may be why the biggest travesty, because people are trying to say, oh yeah, they provided for him and did this. I'm like, the movie puts them way up here, and maybe they're kind of down here. And if we had this view of them, we wouldn't think it was such a big deal. But because we thought it was portrayed that they were saints, they did all this for him, which they may never pretended to be saints. That's just the way Hollywood wanted to portray the movie. That's why it's such a big deal. Because if you really get the real story, and you're like, well, it's not so much crazy. Like I can get where he feels betrayed or whatever, but it is an interesting story. I didn't mean to go too far, but no, we're still making good time. Landon, anything on that story? You've been pretty
took
quiet.
Advantage of the situation, not necessarily the person.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think
it was something that evolved through that situation.
As much as we're talking about Hollywood dramatizing stuff, I think the media, people on Facebook, grab stuff and make it worse.
Now you see all these memes floating around. You see TikToks just flooded with all these interviews now that are coming out. And like SJ Tui said, they didn't make a lot of money on that. I mean, Hollywood made the money on it. They didn't, the royalties they made. Sandra Bullock, Tim McGraw, they made money on it.
Because they may say he made zero money in a movie that made $30 million. Like, well, that makes it sound like there was $30 million split between them, and he didn't get. No, the movie made $30 million, not even $30 million in profit. That's just what it. Well, maybe it was profit, but it grossed $30 million, and Hollywood gets a lot of that. Then everybody signs, and then maybe he did feel like he did. It's hard doing contracts and being business with family, where money's getting thrown around. You're like, I think I'm worth more than that or something. And honestly, if it's not divided down the middle and everybody gets their cut, he should be getting more royalties if he is or isn't, because the movie's about him.
Yeah.
Because Sandra Bullock does a good job of portraying, or not a good job of portraying somebody, but she did a good job acting in that movie that I'm now saying the movie itself separated the dramatized story. She was a good actress in that and deserved to keep her Oscar. It doesn't matter who that other person, if they were terrible or not. She did a good job acting. It looks more towards Leanne Tui is the star of the movie as opposed to Michael Rohr.
You're right. And if you think about it more, that was the point of it. It was almost how was that good for her? That situation helped her out just as much as him. And
I saw a video clip where she's sitting with her friend and she's like, he's doing more for me than or something, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. It's like that line hits differently now after or after something comes out. But there's obviously something there. We knew it didn't go down like it did in the movie, but for him to come out like this, there has to be something there. But I don't think, I'm not going to take a side or say I could be completely wrong, but that's why I'm not saying I think this happened. Yeah. Or maybe I'll say like something like this happened, but I'm not going to say one's wrong, one's right. I don't know the story. We may never know the story. Jumping into some MLB, doing updates now that we're kind of getting into the sort of the home stretch midway through August. September's kind of when you're pushing on that. An article came out by ESPN's Bradford Doolittle where he calculated Shohei Ohtani's true worth using the math and past averages, and we've discussed it on here. What he's truly worth, if you want to do it, because he's basically two players. He's definitely not going to get that, but somebody actually sat down and did the math and has come up with a number to pay Shohei Ohtani. 12 years, $789.7 million. That comes out to $65.8 million a year. What's, wow. In a non-salary cap league.
You're talking about a pitcher and a fielder, both at $345 million.
Which he's pitching less now. They're giving him more breaks just because, first of all, pitchers in Japan, they usually pitch like every 6 days. Is different rotation, different schedule.
Well, and they're also...
And he's playing just about every day.
3 games under 500, so...
Yeah. Man, that's another thing about the Angels. They just said, screw it, we're keeping him, and they went out and made some moves, and ever since the trade deadline, they have been faltering.
Yeah.
Was that a mistake by the Angels? Should they just went ahead and traded him?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that would have been more beneficial for them.
And at these numbers, I know no one's going to pay these numbers, but basically that takes everyone but possibly the Yankees and Dodgers out of it that are willing to pay that much.
Well, and do the Dodgers really need him? They're second place in the NL. They're 612 win percentage. I think they're doing just fine without him.
Yeah, you're not going to, like people saying, Seattle Mariners fans during the All-Star break saying, come here. Texas fans saying, come to Texas. They talked about Colorado. I don't know why they got in the mix, but somebody said they wanted to trade.
He's definitely a mainstream media player. Like, he needs to be in if he's going to be in a market. And I know the Angels aren't big. They're in the LA market, so he is kind of marketed as big. The Angels don't typically market well like the Dodgers would.
Yeah, MLB as a whole
Yankees,
doesn't. Yeah.
Even the Mets might, eventually be, or a San Diego or something could be.
And typically you see those Japanese players wanting to be the West Coast, I guess, because it's closer. It's a quicker flight just from LA to
Seattle. I don't know, was Seattle ever in the mix? Did they ever?
Yeah, I don't know. They had Ichiro, so that's in Japan. If you want to think about what MLB teams are probably on TV, all outside of obviously the Yankees, that Seattle's probably still on the market.
Seattle, you typically would fly into Seattle and then fly from Seattle to Japan?
Either Seattle or LA. Yeah. Or like our brother one time, I don't think this last time, but he did fly that because they went to New York and then they flew the other way. I don't know. Looking at a
But there was
globe,
multiple flight changes that way, right?
yeah. Either way, I don't know that it's much closer. Like on the West Coast, it's much closer. I'm gonna say much. It's still probably an 18-hour flight or something, but it's obviously closer. Where in New York, it's probably like right around the globe, both ways, depending on where you're at. So from where we're at, Dallas Fort Worth, you could probably see both.
Yeah.
I would assume LA more, just because out DFW Airport's one of the biggest airports, and LA's that one. Whereas New York, it's split between 3 major airports.
Yeah.
That, again, I'm just talking out my ass what I think it is, but I would suspect in his mind that he's like, I want to be on a team that's probably going to be on TV in Japan more often. I'm sure the Angels are now a lot more. I bet you Seattle's still one of those teams, because they probably have a pretty decent fan base.
Yeah.
From Ichiro. Yu Darvish is on San Diego, and the Giants are big. I mean, they have a team named the Giants, and I even think they have a team named the Dodgers in the Japanese league. Those 2 California teams. So I don't know what he's going to get paid. I think it's probably going to be about $50 million a year, somewhere around there. But then if you get 50, what's another $15 million for 12 years?
Yeah.
I think Ohtani, I mean, even though he's kind of slowed down, I mean, you put him at top 5 hitter in the league right now, and although he's slowing down, I mean, a top 10 pitcher at worst. And what are you going to pay a top 10 pitcher would be your ace, and he's the ace on the Angels.
Yeah.
Depending if he goes on a winner, maybe he is the ace, maybe he's not the ace, but he'll definitely be a starter in the rotation.
Yeah.
And Landon, you could be on this. I know everyone always talks about 6-man rotations. Why doesn't a team just do that? I mean, I get it takes an extra roster spot where that's one less bullpen pitcher you have, but you would, and I guess value-wise, you're paying an Ohtani $50 million a year to pitch every 6 days. That takes starts off. But it seems like how Tommy John's more prevalent and injuries are more prevalent. Why wouldn't you just go to a 6-man rotation? Get that extra day.
With the 6-man, the difference is you're taking a bullpen spot away, putting it as a starter. You don't. It's hard to say 6, like a 6. You get 6 games.
Yeah, because
start.
Most of the time you're getting a day off anyways, because the majority of the weeks a team's gonna have an off day.
So you're right, though. You're going to lose a game. And an additional guy in the rotation, your number 1, number 2 guys they're going to be, you want them pitching as often as possible.
And maybe if you had 6 legitimate starters, it may make a difference. Like you look at the Rangers roster, Perez is like a setup guy. Like he's just pitching 2 or 3 innings, and it's good to have a starter there when your starter just goes, it's just not going well and you have to go to the bullpen early in the game. Perez can pitch longer. But I guess if you're taking a bullpen pitcher or a long reliever out, like, do you really want him starting a game?
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
And you get to the point where when you get a guy that has really just like found his groove for, 2-3 months at a time, but you have a 6-man rotation, you're getting your guy that's pitching probably the best in his career.
Yeah,
you're only getting him every 6 games.
Yeah.
I thought maybe because Ohtani,
you get him once a week versus
you might be able to get him twice a week with if you can cut it down to like a 4 or 5 man.
Yeah. And like you see that in the playoffs, right? And especially World Series, that they don't go
closer
to 5
to
man. You're like a 3-man.
Yeah,
you're like 3-man.
Well, your bullpen's really stacked.
Yeah, you're really looking at so. But again, you're talking about a team that's not a playoff team. So
I thought the Rangers should have done that with Darvish, because it seemed like he would benefit from that. They always talked about it, and like later in the season he'd get more fatigued. Like maybe you could do that with one guy, like just move him down not always do a 6-man, make him make a 6th start, but make it where he pitches once a week. And again, I get how that financials work. We think these owners are billionaires and millionaires and they can just pay whatever. But they're trying to make money too.
Yeah, you're paying a guy that type of money to be able to throw every 5 days.
And bullpen money's cheaper than starting money.
Yeah,
you get paid more just because you're a starter.
If you think about well, depending on not performance, but not availability either. What am I thinking?
Well, I
how
mean,
much
just-
you pitch. Like if you get paid per
Yeah,
inning,
it's
obviously
dash.
bullpen would get paid more. But no, you're right. You could just throw a couple $1 million, and a bullpen player, you'd be able to make a deal with a bullpen pitcher or reliever that doesn't really hurt your books. When you're getting a starter, that's a good starter. You're gonna spend $30-40 million a
And
year.
if, like with the Rangers, you get a guy like Perez. If you can sign him to a bullpen deal where you have him as a technical, he's a long inning reliever, so he'll go in.
And he can start for you if you need
Yeah,
to.
if you get to the point where you're playing the A's in it's your last game of the series, you need a sweep. You're not gonna throw Max Scherzer at him.
Yeah.
You save an arm, throw Perez at him.
Yeah, they have that opportunity too. Like when you're getting, they're going to be, if they're going to be in the playoffs, you're going your last couple series.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's just mix this up where Max Scherzer's going to be ready for game 1 and John Gray's going to be ready for or however you want to do it.
And you're giving those guys an extra game of rest. I mean, obviously by series depends on how many days of rest they'll get. If
Yeah,
you're
but that gives you
starting
that
next
opportunities
week,
as
you're
opposed
getting in one extra day for those guys.
as opposed if you just have like 2 really good starters and then a couple of okay ones and you're fighting for your spot in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You may be pitching your ace the final game and he's not going to pitch till game 2 or 3 of the first thing. But right now it looks like the Rangers are in a good position that they're going to get a week off.
Yeah.
Or however long the
Which is
first
what they need,
really. Because the Rangers have not been in the playoffs since they've done the expansion. Is the first round, I guess it's the wild card round now, is that a best of 5? Or is that a 1 game, best of 3?
I think it's a series of.
Is it
it's
the
a series
Rangers?
of 5?
Right, because I know the first round, the division series is still 5. Like the second round.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't pay attention if the Rangers aren't in. I don't pay attention until the NL ALCS, the CSs. But yeah, they're definitely in a good position. Someone who's not in a good position are the Yankees.
Yeah.
We thought, hey,
Yeah.
everybody in
Which
the
you don't
AL.
see very often. The Yankees below 500.
This is the first time they've been below 500 this late in the season since the early 90s. At that time, Jeter had just been called up to AAA, I believe. I know he's still in the minor league system. Their manager was in the minor leagues last time. This was right before, of course, right before they started their most recent dynasty where they're winning 3 straight in the 90s. Yankees aren't doing well. We thought looking at the AL East that every team in that division was going to be in the playoffs. And right now the Yankees
the
are
Yankees
doing
started
well.
off slow at the beginning of the season, holding that last place slots for a little while, and we were thinking, man, they're not going to get out of it. And then
Judge
they
has
caught
also
wind.
Been out all season.
Yeah, I mean that makes a difference too.
Him and Trout have been on and off the IL and IR all season.
Not to be a hater though. How many players have the Rangers lost, and they've just been next man
That's
up.
true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all
if
about
you're
the
built
farm
for
system
that.
that you have to have.
Yeah, if you're built for that, the Yankees apparently aren't built for that.
Yeah, the Rangers have been in a good position where the players that they're just the young players that they've been playing the last couple of years because they just haven't been in it have worked out to be really good role players.
Yeah.
Like up and down that roster, you don't see many outside of Simeon, Seager. You don't see many superstars. And then Josh Young just working out like we expected. And Jonah Hines been an all-star. Lowe's been really good. And then Ezekiel Durant, doesn't matter. Josh Young gets hurt, put him at third.
I think
Seager gets
that
hurt, put him at
is-
shortstop. He's been working. He's even played first and been working
Yeah,
out.
I think that's what's the best about the farm system with the Rangers is that an injury hasn't found a hole in the farm system yet.
Yeah. And it's not even like outside of Josh Young, you really haven't brought up anybody yet. I mean,
Yeah.
they have a lot of pitchers that are turning out to be longer projects, but that's okay because they seem to have 6 or 7 possible starters in the rotation if you count DeGrom too. Where yeah, they've gone out and spent big, and they've made a couple of trade deadline moves with Aroldis Chapman. But I think their core nucleus is having those role players.
Yeah.
And they've just done a good job of it's like we talked about the Orioles. They did a great job of the superstars they have of developing them. And the Rangers
Yeah.
didn't necessarily develop superstars outside of possibly Josh Young, but that's what it takes to win championships is those role players. Same with the Mavericks. Like you have Luka and Kyrie, but you have nobody else. You have a couple players that kind of, you need those role players. That's why the Heat, they did make it to 4 straight finals and did win a couple. But you thought they were going to win, what was it? They said not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Because you're like, oh, they just have the 3 best players in the league or 3 of the top players in the league. But they couldn't afford to have anybody else. And that's what the Rangers, I don't want to say lucked into, but kind of came out of nowhere is everything's working out with the players they have. There's not like a weak spot where you're like, man, this is a liability here. Even their 8th, 9th hole hitters usually are doing pretty good. When your catcher is making all-star games, that's good. And not just for his catching, his defense. He's a good hitter too and hitting a lot of home runs.
He is one of the, if not the best framer in baseball, he's one of the top 3. I think he has, they do this weird framing percentage rate. He is above Sean Murphy and JT Realmuto, guys that are like, their big thing is known for their ability to frame baseballs, and he is bounds ahead of people.
Since we have time, and we'll just go off subject here, you're talking about framing. We all believe, I think we talked about it, I think we all believe that eventually the robot pitch counter, the pitch caller, whatever they call their try in the minor leagues, is going to come. That's going to mess up that's going to take away the advantage of framing. Am I correct? What?
Kind of. If they go to like the full, they don't even have umpires calling balls and strikes anymore. It's just
I don't think they'll do that. There's no reason not to have an umpire. Well, the umpire needs to be there to call, safe it out.
Well,
they still need the 4 umpires, and he can still like say strike or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like they just have him there.
But the computer is making the
and
decision,
telling him what to say.
Yeah, that call would be changed.
Yeah,
is what they've tested.
But
because framing is he pitches it down here, and I'm going to grab it and hold it up here to make it look like I caught the ball.
It's all about the glove movement. Is you may catch it out of the zone, but your glove movement into the zone makes it appear that that's
because
where you
the umpire is behind him, and that's what makes him really good at frame. Basically, tricking the umpire into thinking
work
it
your
was
way
a strike.
around. Yeah, I mean, he's seeing where this finishes. I mean, he sees the pitch. I mean, it's coming in 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you can't really see the ball.
And so,
it's where do we cleanly can we?
And
we
so,
can
when depending on the algorithms of the computer, and really what we're doing, because we see it where the pitch was, and they have the strikeout, and it's unofficial or whatever. But framing has nothing to do with that.
Well, have you seen the
right? You can't trick the computer into thinking
seen the
it was.
MLB is tracking the umpires with those charts and showing percentage,
showing their
balls,
grades,
strikes, grading them. I mean, you see some umpires that they're great. They're very high, 99, 100% accuracy.
Angel Hernandez just lost. Was it a lawsuit? I don't know all the thing. I just remember seeing it, but he was suing for defamation or something like that.
Because they weren't letting him umpire World Series and stuff like that.
Okay, see, that's I didn't know if it had to do with this calls or not.
If you see, there and then there's some umpires I've seen. I mean, they're low, bad percentage. You're like, how do you miss that much in a game?
And like I said when we were doing Friday Night Football, it's hard to be a referee and umpire.
Yeah, at a youth level, you expect there to be some inaccuracies. You're at a youth level, just like with youth coaches.
They're volunteers.
Right. It's these guys aren't volunteers. They're getting paid pretty good.
They get paid?
Yeah.
They're paid decent money.
Yeah.
Like for like all-star leagues and
no, for like rec leagues.
Every league.
You paid like $70,
every
$80
umpire
a
you
game.
see out there suited
I know like high school they have like they'll get paid a little bit of money, but
no, they get paid good money.
Little league?
Little league gets
I retract my statement.
Your T-ball guys, they get paid good money.
High school gets paid like $125, $150 a game. And then like little league stuff is like 80, 75, 80.
But you're calling multiple games
per game.
Yeah, no, that's per game.
No, I'm saying, but you're getting per game, and you're calling multiple
all day
games.
Long, you're gonna make great money.
You call
all day
2
long.
coach pitch games, and you make $160.
See, now when parents are yelling at I'm thinking, man, these are just kids. Like, I get the kid. Don't yell at the coaches. Don't yell at the kids. For a reason.
The umpires get paid.
The umpire, go ahead and yell at the umpire. Forget that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel bad for them now. They know what they're getting into, the coach giving them.
But you would think, I mean, at that level, you expect there to be some inaccuracies in calling. That's not their full-time job. They do get paid for it, but it's not their full-time job. But at the pro level, that is their full-time job. That's all they do day in and day out. You would think
And-
that these guys, I mean, they're rotating, but if a guy can't get better than 60% calls or 70% calls behind the plate,
That's
you
bad.
shouldn't be behind the
Yeah,
plate.
I think it's definitely going to where there's going to be some sort of computer calling
What
or
they
maybe
did in the
assisted.
minor leagues is I think we talked about it on here before, is the challenge calls.
Yeah.
Where you can go back
you
and
get
look
a challenge and a at bat.
And so, what do they have? One challenge now.
Yeah, a challenge and
So
at
just
bat.
add in challenge since you're adding it to. You can't challenge strike and ball calls, can you?
Not
No,
yet.
but that's what they're testing.
Well, yeah, I know, but
tested.
like now in the major leagues,
No, you can't.
yeah, but you can challenge the computer or whatever. See, going to that form of calling balls and strikes isn't worse than having a pitch clock. I'm surprised that the pitch clock made it quicker
Yeah.
than this did. So I get adding all these new rules. It's like, what are we doing? But that's like, who cares? You're still gonna have the umpire out there.
Yeah.
He's still gonna call them balls and strikes. We already have the technology being used in major leagues showing you, and maybe
What
you
would
just
be the argument then if you have the technology that shows you, and say you have a screen off to the side all over the stadium, you have these screens that show that strike zone box, and a pitch hits, and this is where it registers, but the pitcher thinks, no, that wasn't right. I threw it here. You registered it wrong. Then where's the argument?
you challenge it, and you can look. You can because you're not gonna when
Physically watch the video of the
yeah
pitch.
they're gonna physically when you challenge it, they go back and watch the video and see what happened.
But
It's
then-
not just like where did the
So
computer
then
call it.
you're going to eliminate the pitch clock by challenging pitches now to
Well,
review
limited
and
to
slow
one a
the
game like they do now. Which
Oh,
if
it's
you're
one
getting
in at bat.
one,
So
one in that bat,
because they
Each
use
player gets an
the
at-bat.
box. They use the
and the player can challenge as well.
Yes.
the players challenge. They use the box, and if the ball is touching the box, it's a strike.
So if you get one in that bat, there's no reason just say challenge it. What the hell, maybe.
So they have a separate. It's not like they stop the game and go. You've got somebody monitoring these.
So if they challenge it,
So
they'll
if you
say,
just
"Give us a
challenge,
second."
the guy behind the plate, no, he just turns to him and says, "Hey, give me a call on
Just,
that."
just like
And
when
it's
you're
right
doing a
then, it's
check
instant.
swing, you're pointing at the
Yes,
umpire.
exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's not
Same
too
thing.
bad.
You have somebody on a computer that they're reading. They're like, yeah, that was actually a ball, but if he challenges it, then we'll have the call ready. We know what that call is going to be. The umpire goes, "Hey, what would you have the call at?" They'll tell him, "Okay."
And the same thing
That's
that we
the
see on TV with the white box, and then
See-
we see where the ball is. That's what they're saying.
See, to me, I'm just thinking like it's not gonna change. Like it'll change how you play the game, but it's it's not as intrusive as a pitch clock and
But
completely
then
changing your
also,
strategy.
That's part of baseball, right? That human interaction. I mean, it's easy for someone that's not playing, that's not in the box, getting screwed by a bad call.
Yeah.
But that's part of the game, the human
And-
element of it. Think about if we did this in the NFL and you used AI technology to call every holding penalty, every chop block, everything, every face mat, like every call was made, right? Would you ever get a game completed because there's a holding call on every single
That's
play?
it's subjective.
Exactly.
Balls and strikes, which you can't say to an extent are, but when you come with a rule, if it
is.
touches the
Yeah, I mean, someone has to establish where that strike zone is. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Aaron Judge and you have Jose Altuve. Their strike zones aren't the same.
and
They're
that's
not in the
fine.
same
I'm
position.
sure that will be included, and that as opposed to an umpire who's the same height when Aaron Judge comes up or Jose Altuve and he's bending down
Or
further.
but just where that strike zone ends up. I mean,
Yeah.
for Jose Altuve, a catcher's going to frame in here for a ball. For Aaron Judge, your pitch is your strike is
and that's
up
what we're
here.
going to get is, to me, if you're going to go with the pitch clock and everything, I think this is 100% coming.
Yeah.
That why would you stop it other than saying, hey, I'm a traditionalist, I don't like, whatever, which Rob Manfred in baseball said, I don't give a damn about traditionalists. But there's the politics on it where umpires like this. Is it going to cost them money, or are they going to start paying them less because that's less of a job they're doing? I don't know. Umpires say they don't like it, or catchers saying, hey, that's my thing. I'm really good at framing. I have nothing else.
I think that's why they're doing it 1-2 a game right now, is so it's not like the hitter, because as a hitter, if you have the ability to go back and look at every single pitch, why wouldn't you go back and look at every single called strike that you have?
That's what I'm thinking. If there's not a penalty, like, when you get 2 throws to first base,
Yeah.
that third one, you better get him out or it's going to be, that's a incentive not to do it unless you think you really can.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not going to take much time. Like you said, if they challenge it, it takes 5 seconds or whatever, but that takes it like the last pitch, a walk or a strikeout. Why wouldn't the batter or pitcher just say, hey, I haven't used my challenge. Is that, let's just go ahead and challenge it. And when you do it every single at bat, I don't know that that's what it's going to be, but why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
If you haven't used your challenge and you think, like, let's just throw it out there. It was close. Maybe they'll call it. Just, hell, why not?
Yeah.
That you do that every single time, every single at bat. How many at bats for relative 4 times 9, 30 something at bats per team. That can completely wipe out all the time they're saving with the pitch clock.
I think I'm assuming that pitchers will get one too.
That's what I'm saying.
A challenge. I'm assuming they'll get one. So if it's like
outside of a hit or outside of a ground out, fly out, or whatever, where it's either a strikeout or a walk, why wouldn't the batter or pitcher just say that? And then you're right. If a pitcher in the middle of the count says, "I think that was a strike challenge," and then the hitter gets struck out, he's like, "I want to challenge that too." So you just double that too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they would have to come up with something where, if you challenge it and it's wrong, I don't know. It'd be at the end.
Well, I've seen
you're not going to
where
add a
the
strike or a
umpire
ball.
would have it in his ear, and he would be behind, and they would basically be radioing in, and it would slow down the call instantaneously, but it comes in, tells him, okay, that's a ball, and then he calls ball. All right, that was a strike. Okay, strike. But it takes out that element too, where you as a ball player would understand in the box. You get a ball call or a strike call, wherever it's at, you can turn to him and you ask him, hey, is that the edge of the zone? Is that the limits of my strike zone? That's gone now with that guy. That there is no discussion about what you're seeing in your approach. You don't know what the computer zone is,
But I assume that when they challenge, I don't know if you have this off the top of your head or even know, how often is that challenge overturned? I would assume very rarely.
I've seen one clip of it being overturned. It was a 3-2 count. Hitter got struck out, challenged it, got walked.
So, like we saw with, after the egregious no call against the pass interference against the Saints and Rams in that game, the next year they said you can challenge it. And I don't believe we ever saw one overturned. Eventually the coach is like, unless it's just ridiculous, I'm not going to challenge it because it's not going to. And maybe we get into that where it's never getting overturned unless it's a big situation and you truly think that it was the wrong call. Maybe. And I would see them coming up with some sort of limit where it's not one every at bat. Maybe you get 5 a game or something. And just like in the NFL, if you get both of your challenges right, you earn a third one. So maybe if like every challenge is successful, you can keep going or something like that.
Yeah.
Or we get in a situation like, Lane is not going to, the 2001 A Space Odyssey movie, we start challenging the computer and then AI takes over. You don't remember? You've never seen that movie? It was in the 60s. I just recently seen it. But yeah, that's the AI thing. So it just like when I think I've mentioned on here before, I was driving and it started raining outside. It had been I think a long drought. I don't know. But I said, hey Siri, make sure Siri's not going to pop up. Using my phone as a camera, but I said, hey, text Ashley, it's raining. And it said, no, we don't see any rain, or I don't see rain in the forecast, and didn't text her. I'm like, that's an AI decision my phone made to not text my wife that it's raining because they didn't think it was raining when it was just like sprinkles on my windshield. Yeah, I know this isn't technically going to be AI as the definition because somebody's going to be manning it, and they're calling it, they're seeing it, and then the computer's going to tell them what it is. But it's a slippery slope. Maybe 50 years from now.
I mean, the technology's been in since the Statcast era started.
Yeah,
the same thing that gets all.
We watch it. We watch it right there. I don't know how accurate that is compared to the computers they're using, but you can see it's a strike. It's not a strike.
You have to know, man, it's not just this angle. You have to check top, side. You have to check all the angles of it. At what point did it cross the plate? Yeah. Not where the catcher catches it, but where it actually crosses in the zone.
And they do all that, and you can watch it. They show it on TV sometimes.
That is AI that's pinpointing the ball around. It comes in and it knows ball strike where.
Yeah, no, that's per definition is AI. I said it wrong, but what we're thinking AI is the computer's like, no, that was a ball.
A robot.
You're wrong. Yeah, we're not gonna have robots calling, and we probably have the technology in every sport to eliminate refereeing and put cameras and sensors everywhere.
Yeah. Well, we do it in Madden, right?
Yeah. Well, I was playing Madden and it kind of glitched the other day. So
it's realism.
Yeah, but we are almost out of time, guys. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadoff. You can hear us every Saturday here on the Peak One Sports Network. Make sure to follow us on social media. We have a lot of stuff coming up. We're finishing our Betalytics hat giveaway today. We're going to pick a lucky winner, so you still have time. Go comment somewhere, social media, YouTube. Tell us you want that hat. Until next time, I'm Ashton.
And I'm Tony. Have a
Landen.
good weekend.